Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 424 for the 1st of December 2016. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Well, by the time you're listening to this, a lot of you, I might be in Queenstown, New Zealand. Yes, this show is coming out a bit early, a couple of days earlier this week, because I'm on the road, in the air, in a taxi, in a hotel room at the New Zealand Skeptics Conference, which is being held this weekend in beautiful Queenstown. As I speak to you, I'm sort of half packing my bags, half editing the show, half patting the cats. Hello, cats. They're sleeping over there. So, an early Skeptic Zone this week. Sort of a Skeptic Zone from the future. And speaking of the future, we're going to start with the top psychic predictions for 2016 as made in the pages of the International Psychics Directory. What have the best seers and mystics and psychics seen coming for 2016? Now, this was published all the way back in 2015, so they couldn't possibly know what's coming. Or did they? Find out at the top of the show where we mark their homework. We review what they said. And following that, we catch up with Michael Marshall, who's been in Sydney after the Australian Skeptics Convention in Melbourne. He flew up to Sydney, and we hosted him at a really great Skeptics in the Pub the other night, where he spoke to us about how the media can be manipulated with fake news. What a fascinating talk that was. And as a matter of fact, folks, I had the pleasure today to be with Marsh for a couple of hours with Dr. Karl Krutelniski, as they were doing lots of TV and radio pre-records and live broadcasts. Great fun. Well done, Marsh. It was a real pleasure to see you. Michael Marshall and I and some other people are working on a few sort of semi-secret projects at the moment. But hopefully during the course of 2017, all shall be revealed. Anyway, we've got a little recording of Michael Marshall at Skeptics in the Pub after he gave his talk, just relaxing with a couple of drinks and some friends, just having a bit of a general chat, sort of like a microscopic think tank. And following that, I read a report from the Sunday World paper in Ireland. Now, this story has been brought to my attention by our friend Fiona O'Leary, who is a tireless campaigner for autism rights and a tireless crusader against quackery, especially when it comes to vaccination misinformation. And this article is all about homeopaths. Oh, they're never far from the news, are they, homeopaths? After that report, we have Brew Ha Ha from Australia's Science Channel, australiascience.tv. This week, it's Kelly Wong with a couple of reports about all sorts of things, including fake news. Then to round off the show, yet another in the long-running series of wonderful interviews by Eran Segev from the QED conference. Oh, man. I was just chatting to Michael Marshall about that the other day. It's such a great convention, that one, QED in Manchester. Oh, I don't know, maybe if the good airline fairy would visit me soon and... I digress. Anyway, another interview from the microphone of Eran Segev. This week, Eran talks to Tom and Cecil from the Cognitive Dissonance Podcast. And we'll put a link up there on the show notes. Now, this is somewhat more racy than the Skeptic Zone, I have to say, their podcast. But, well, you know, we can't be all like Caesar. We can't be all things to all men or all people. And I happen to know that this podcast has many fans in Australia. Rounding off the Skeptic Zone this week, Eran Segev with Grain of Salt. Now, if you're in New Zealand, you've still just got time to book your ticket for the New Zealand Skeptics Conference, and I hope to see you there. I'll bend a spoon for you or something like that. A link on this week's show notes, or just Google it, you'll find it. Looking forward to catching up with Susan Gerbeck, who... as an old friend of mine, she'll be there too. Wow, we're going to have a great time. I'll bring my microphone along, and I'm sure to score many interesting interviews for you all to enjoy in the coming weeks. But now it's time for me not to run downstairs, in fact. Now it's time for me to turn my chair around, like that, sort of, and keep sorting through my socks and things packing my bag. What I'm going to take? I'm going to take some divining rods. I'm going to take a power band, a wristband. I'm going to take a premium wine card. Oh, yes, what else have I got a list here? I'm going to take some copies of the Australian Skeptic magazine for our New Zealand friends, and whatever else I can fit into my bag. But not you two. Not you two, Henrietta and Maud, sleeping over there in the sun. I don't think they care. While I do all that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. From the pages of the 2016 Australian edition of the International Psychics Directory. Tomorrow's news today. Top predictions for 2016 from members of the International Psychics Association. And this was published in late 2015. Let's see what the top seers, mystics, astrologers, clairvoyants, mediums and so forth had in store for us for 2016, way back from 2015. Global. Hillary Clinton will be the next president of the USA. Chris Courier. Now we might be generous here and say, well, look, everybody predicted that, a lot of people predicted Mrs. Clinton would be the next president of the USA. So we can sort of say, well, that's understandable that Chris Courier would say that. Apart from the fact that these people are supposed to be psychic or have insights or mystical powers or whatever. So such an obvious blundering error shouldn't be made. They should predict Donald Trump would be the next president, even if other people didn't, because they have special powers. Next prediction. An assassination attempt on Pope Francis will not be successful. Francis Bevan. Well, we've still got a few weeks of this year left, and unless there was a secret assassination attempt on the Pope, that prediction seems to have fallen quite flat. Did anybody hear of an assassination attempt on the Pope? We read on. There will be extreme conflict between minority groups in Europe. I see a rush of people leaving their homes in German and Austrian areas around April. Joy Arena. Well, undoubtedly there has been unrest in Europe over the last couple of years with various refugee issues and immigrant issues, but I don't think there is anything that we can shoehorn or try to match to this. It seems a bit vague to me, and I don't think it came true. Another member will join the royal family in 2016. I feel this is in the way of an engagement from Andrew's family. Chris Courier. Nope. Well, it seems that this Chris Courier was angling for one of Prince Andrew's daughters to become engaged, which didn't happen, although one had an unfortunate incident just lately with a sword you might have heard about. The next one says, a huge issue between the USA and Russia, and it could lead to combat. Wajid Samwell. Well, I know. Well, here's an interesting thing. Could. A huge issue between the USA and Russia, and it could lead to combat. Well, that's what we call a weasel word. It might happen. But one would hope if someone could predict something, they could say with more certainty than that. Solar flares will be in the news from February onwards. With conjecture, giant solar flares could affect power grids. Large solar flares will impact the USA in July, September and October and interfere with electricity supply. There will be a near miss with a nuclear reactor in the USA in October. A nuclear reactor in Japan will be compromised during October. This will cause some radiation damage to the surrounding areas, but will eventually be contained. Elizabeth Jensen. Nope. In fact, I've seen This solar flares come up before, I'm sure, in past years. It's if they have a list of things and every now and then they bring them out again. Earthquakes, solar flares, volcanoes, that sort of stuff. Sorry, a big miss there. Australia. Australia's education system will undergo a major overhaul to improve national academic standards. Our Defence Forces receive a much-needed overhaul, and the Australian Navy will be in the news. Building and infrastructure will be in the news as improvements are made to our highways, railway lines and airports. Francis Bevan. Talk about vague and talk about we already knew that was coming in 2015 anyway, with, for example, major upgrades to roads and highways and things in Sydney for a start. So I would give all that a big miss. Vague or incorrect or already known. There will be political changes for Queensland with a shake-up from the Crime Corruption Commission. Chris Courier. Well, nothing that really made the news. Sorry, I don't think so. Health. Scientists will find a new way to use insect and animal venom to cure diseases. Mark Paul. Anybody? Do I hear crickets chirping? Insects? Well, possibly there is work being done by some scientists somewhere with insect and animal venom, but nothing that particularly made the news. New strategies will be put into place to improve our medical system, especially when it comes to dealing with new surgery techniques. Francis Bevan. Far too vague. Absolutely. I'm sure this happens every year to some extent in some regions, in some areas. Economy. The Aussie dollar will drop over 10 cents over the first months of 2016 and could go as low as 55 cents to the US dollar. It will pick up by June 2016 and take a few months to recover. Wajid Samuel. And looking at the chart over the last year of the Australian dollar versus the US dollar, this simply hasn't happened at all. The dollar started the beginning of this year at about 73 cents. It did dip in the first few weeks down to 68 cents, I seem to see, recovered very quickly in February and has been hovering around the 78, then down to 71, then 76, 77, 73, ever since. So these dramatic predictions made simply didn't happen. A minor financial crash in Australia in May is likely to become more major in July and August and will impact some banks' ability to maintain customer services. Best to keep some spare cash on hand in 2016. But Australian banks will not close their doors for long periods of time, as in the Greek financial crisis. Elizabeth Jensen. Nothing like that has been reported this year. New arrangements with our international trading partners sees a closer connection between Australia, Asia, Japan, China, South Korea, Singapore and Malaysia. The increase of the GST will be the front and centre economically, and major efforts will be made to improve our unemployment numbers. There is a positive outlook. After all, we are known as the lucky country. Francis Bevan. Unless there was some secret deals, new arrangements with our international trading partners sees a closer connection. Yeah, probably every year there are new arrangements and new deals and new cooperation struck between Australia and many of its trading partners. No increase in the GST, however. Coal prices dropping to an all-time low and renewable energy takes a new approach. Chris Courier. Well, that didn't happen, and here we are with the vague weasel words, I guess. Renewable energy takes a new approach. It's just meaningless. Politics. A light-hearted scandal amongst our politicians will be a big national joke. Wajid Samuel. Too vague. What light-hearted scandal was he referring to? Any details? Malcolm Turnbull will be quite popular as Prime Minister, but will not be returned to office. Elizabeth Jensen. Well, while Malcolm Turnbull was somewhat popular initially, he's not so popular now, but he was returned to office. Climate.
rural Queensland will get the rain it is in much need of. Chris Courier.
I don't seem to recall hearing of any spectacular drought-breaking rain. Although what probably did happen was certain areas did get needed rain, which happens every year regardless.
The angels show me 2 volcanoes going off. One is north of Australia, in one of the Indonesian islands. The other is east of Australia, between Australia and America. They are also talking about erratic weather and climate changes all over the world in the next 12 months. Natalie Norton-Baker.
It turns out there was a volcanic eruption in September in Indonesia. However, there are about 130 active volcanoes in Indonesia, as Indonesia is on the famous Ring of Fire. So a volcanic eruption, generally speaking, isn't much of a prediction because it happens every year. And one in Indonesia isn't startling because of the huge number of volcanoes in Indonesia. Could we give that half a hit? I'm inclined not even to do that. And the prediction spoke about the area between Australia and the United States. That's the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire goes up New Zealand, up north, and swings across to Indonesia, up through southern China area, Japan, up to Alaska, and right down the whole western side of the United States and South America. So any volcanic action in that area is not a prediction, it is just simply expected. And erratic weather and climate changes all over the world. Apart from concerns about various climate change issues, I don't think there was anything particularly erratic. Every year there are major storms and hurricanes and tornadoes. That's just what happens every year.
I see buildings collapsing as earthquakes hit the South China Sea. Neighbouring countries, including Australia, are also affected. Francis Bevan.
Earthquakes in the South China Sea, not that I have heard about. Again, earthquakes happen every year. And speaking of earthquakes,
a large earthquake affects Japan in July in the Tokyo area. This earthquake is not as major as the 2011 event, but there is some loss of human life and radiation from a damaged nuclear reactor. There will only be minor earthquakes that cause very minimal damage in Australia and New Zealand. Elizabeth Jensen.
Australia gets earthquakes every year, minor earthquakes every year. And New Zealand, sadly, a little while ago, had a major earthquake which caused death and lots of damage. So absolutely incorrect there. And Japan, of course, gets earthquakes every year, and quite decent ones too, as it did this year. But the one she's referring to, it doesn't fit. Technology.
Journeys to outer space will be very much on the public mind. Francis Bevan.
Well, there has been some happenings in outer space this year. A probe was sent to Mars. But compared to last year or other notable events, I don't think 2016 has been a particularly big year for the public imagination when it comes to journeys to outer space. Entertainment.
Many celebrities will be drawn to spirituality for their own understanding and others for their own egos to be boosted. A celebrity will appear to be wanting to help others, yet only be trying to take their propaganda to the world. Joy Arena.
Completely vague. A completely vague and wishy-washy prediction there, Joy. So out of the 21-odd predictions there, I would have to rate this current crop for 2016 as probably the worst I've come across in over 10 years of reviewing these predictions. Honestly, there is nothing there that stands out as, wow, that's an interesting prediction, or my goodness me, how could they have known? Most of these are completely wrong or just too vague to be even counted. And I don't need to remind you that 2016 has widely been regarded as a pretty awful year on many levels. I mean, it had its good points too. Of course, every year does. Every year has its good and its bad times. But well, according to popular culture anyway, 2016 was a stinker. and glaringly absent from this page of predictions from these wonderful seers and mystics is the Donald Trump victory and the Brexit. Things like the New Zealand earthquake from about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the recent Japanese earthquake, the death of Fidel Castro, for example, and so much more. David Bowie. I need not tell you. And as we have noted before on the Skeptic Zone, and indeed I made a point of this at TAM Australia when we did a similar thing way back in 2010, the success rate of Australia's top mystics and clairvoyants is about, give or take, 5%. In other words, 95% wrong. It's as if they're just making guesses. We look forward, and that magazine might be out now, to seeing what wonders are in store for us for 2017.
Astronomy Cast takes a facts-based journey through the cosmos as it offers listeners weekly discussions on astronomical topics ranging from planets to cosmology. Hosted by Fraser Kane of Universe Today and myself, Dr. Pamela Gay of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, this show brings the questions of an avid astronomy lover directly to an astronomer. Together, Fraser and I explore what is known and being discovered about the universe around us. Join us each week as we take a facts-based journey through the cosmos at astronomycast.com.
Always. Almost unedited.
Now, folks, normally I like to speak to Michael Marshall when he's completely with it and together and on the ball, but
I'm always with the ball.
He's always on the ball. Tonight he gave a wonderful talk here at Sydney Skeptics in the pub. Marsh, you've had it's a whirlwind trip to Australia, and you're going in a few days.
Yeah, I am. I've been in Melbourne. I did a few things at the conference in Melbourne. That was fun. I've come here. I like Sydney. I've been to Sydney before. I enjoy it a lot, and I think tonight was all right, wasn't it? That was kind of like fine. I'm getting thumbs up on a microphone, which is always a very useful thing for an audio medium. And then I head back out on Thursday, so it's kind of a nice little interjection of sunshine in the horrendous cold of winter that we're experiencing in the UK at the moment. So I get to actually bugger off to the other side of the world and actually enjoy some sun.
Is this the winter of your discontent?
Well, it's the winter of my content, because I'm here in a place where it's actually warm. It's fine. It's a discontent of all my friends back home who are annoyed about the fact that I might have a chance to go and stand on a beach and put my feet in the water and not freeze to death tomorrow, hopefully, maybe.
Well, I guess you could say that 2016 hasn't been bad in all respects.
Probably less so for this hemisphere than my hemisphere. This is certainly a year where the southern hemisphere is a couple of points ahead, I think, as the entire northern hemisphere is basically politically on fire. There's nothing good happening up there at all. That's the other reason I'm seeking refuge from whatever awful things must be happening back home. It's political asylum. It really is. You're right, Trish. I'm hoping that you'll take pity on a poor itinerant skeptic and not make me go back to where the bad people are in control. Yeah.
You don't have to go back, Marsh. But no, it's been a wonderful Skeptics in the Pub here, folks. If you haven't been to Sydney Skeptics in the Pub, it's the new Occidental Hotel. We're having a really great time. There are still people here. It must be like 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's still people. It's just incredible. And did we enjoy Michael's talk tonight? Yeah,
very much. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, you are sat around me right now, so if you didn't, you wouldn't say it. It'd be really rude. I noticed you didn't say a word, actually. Everyone said, yeah. Jess didn't say a word. It's fine. I don't need to... All the people sitting around us
podcasts, Marsh, have all been on the Skeptic Zone at one stage or another. They all have. In fact, Trish here does your ad.
Yes, because I'm terrible at providing ads for you, Richard.
You are terrible.
I'm terrible at providing ads for you.
For the good thinking, right?
The reason...
Oh, hi, Trish, hi.
Oh, yeah, let's go through this again. Hang on.
Let's have a coffee. That's Trish who does that. And for years, Marsh has been promising me a new promotion for Skeptics with a K.
You've still got Colin on it. You haven't had one since Alice joined.
Yeah, last week I had to play the old one because I'm thinking...
Oh, really?
I did, because...
listening to him travelling.
Yeah, because I thought, I got to promote his podcast. What have I got? Oh, this old one, that'll do.
The problem is, we're really British. Like, really British. So talking about how good we are, it's so hard. It's really, really difficult. The hard thing is writing something that brings Alice in. And, so we'll do that sometime. Alice is doing a PhD. If anybody listens to the show, turns out Alice is doing a thesis for a PhD. We don't mention it often because we don't like to make a big deal of it. But maybe when that happens, you know what? The reason, Richard, is you keep bullying me for the advert. Nothing... If you go to the organ grinder, not the monkey, essentially, you need to go to Mike. Mike is the source of everything that happens in terms of the show. I just turn up and interrupt people for a bit and then make stupid jokes and then bugger off again. And then Mike has to try and wrestle that into something that makes sense.
Maybe if I mention Doctor Who, it might actually get me somewhere with it.
That's true. But contact Mike. If I contact Mike, he'll ignore me because he's used to me. If you contact me, Richard Saunders, I like Richard Saunders. I'm bored of Marsh, but I like Richard Saunders. I'll do what Richard Saunders wants. So yes, that's how you get that done. And if you hear a new ad on the show in the next couple of weeks, you know that's what happened.
There you are, folks. We're going to try and get a new ad for Skeptics with a K. If you don't listen to Skeptics with a K, why not? It's a wonderful podcast. It's one of my favourite skeptical podcasts. Marsh, what's the address?
That's a very good question. I think it's merseyskeptics.org.uk/podcast, but we're very findable on things. So if you put the words that make up the title of the show into any kind of place where you search for stuff, apart from in your own personal library if you don't already subscribe to us, then you'll find us. So yeah, Skeptics with a K, anywhere where you can Google stuff. Like Google.
I think one of the things that first attracted me to your show was the music. You remember me commenting on the music?
Yeah, the funny thing is, everyone thinks like, oh, this is the Skeptics with a K theme tune. I wonder where they got it from. It's just a stock piece of it's called something like Mersey Beat is the name of that track. And the weird thing is, there's a TV show for kids in the UK called Peppa Pig. And there's one...
Here, too, believe
Oh, right, okay, well, there's one episode of it where all the lights go out. There's a power cut.
And that music comes...
It's the Skeptics with a K theme tune. She's dancing to the Skeptics with a K theme tune.
I've seen it because my nieces love Peppa Pig.
And people are going like, oh, wow, how did you get the theme tune on Peppa Pig? It's like, very much, that's not how that's... I mean, come on, you should be critical thinkers. Let's think about how this might happen. Yeah.
The Power Cup.
It is evening. Peppa and George are in the sitting room, dancing to their favourite song. Daddy Pig is in the hallway, vacuuming the carpet.
Oh, well, look, thanks again, Marsh, for a wonderful talk tonight. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around here and having a great time. If you don't have a Skeptics in the pub in your city, folks, it might be something that you can start yourselves. But for now, cheers, everybody. Cheers.
There you go. Nice. Okay, cool.
Ham it up. Hey, Richard.
Oh, hi, Trish. Would you like a coffee?
Yeah, thanks. What are you working on?
I'm trying to come up with a new promo to play on the Skeptic Zone.
Who's it for?
The Good Thinking Society in the UK. You know, Michael Marshall, Simon Singh, Laura Thomas and that crowd.
Oh, yeah, I know them. They've been doing some great work investigating veterinary homeopathy.
Veterinary homeopathy? What, you sugar pills for cows?
I know, right? And also they're looking at some of the dodgy medical advice given by UK chiropractors.
I'll mention all that in the promo. Now, their website is goodthinkingsociety.org.
And they've recently been reporting on the resurgence of faith healer Peter Popoff.
Peter Popoff. Great. Okay, look, thanks for that. It gives me something good to think about. Listeners may well remember that on show 406 of the Skeptic Zone, on the 31st of July this year, our special guest was Fiona O'Leary from Ireland, who was, and is still, of course, fighting the vaxxed movie wherever and whenever she can, and also misinformation when it comes to autism, and particularly bizarre quackery treatments for autism. Well, she brought this item to my attention in the Sunday World newspaper, a report by Patrick O'Connell. Homeopaths cashing in on vulnerable parents. A campaigner who exposed the sale of bleach as a cure for autism has now warned that homeopaths are milking thousands of euro from desperate parents by peddling false cures. Fiona O'Leary, who single-handedly exposed bleacher preacher Patrick Merlian's Genesis 2 church for peddling a diluted bleach product as a cure, said the law needs to clamp down on homeopaths making such promises. One group who claim, despite all scientific evidence to the contrary, that toxins are responsible for causing autism, are set to offer certification courses for homeopaths in Dublin next week. The CEASE method, which stands for Complete Elimination of Autistic Spectrum Expression, is the brainchild of Dutch homeopath Tinus Smits, who died in 2010. Smits claimed that, quote, autism is an accumulation of different causes, and about 70% is due to vaccines, 25% to toxic medication and other toxic substances, and 5% to some diseases, end quote. Heartless. Speaking to the Sunday World, Fiona O'Leary said, quote, parents of children with autism will do anything to help their children, and heartless charlatans are taking advantage of that. Any homeopath claiming to be able to cure autism is making a false claim, because autism is not a curable condition. But these charlatans are promising a cure and raking in thousands on the back of empty promises, end quote. Incredibly, the group claims that, quote, illness, medication and vaccination in the energetic field of the father and mother before pregnancy can be transmitted to the child by energetic transfer, end quote. The rise of anti-vaccination groups who peddle disinformation linking vaccines to various conditions is increasingly causing alarm among healthcare professionals. Around 280 women in Ireland will be diagnosed with cervical cancer, and some 90 will die from the disease in 2016. HPV is the main cause of this type of cancer. There are many types of HPV, most of which are harmless. However, some strains can be serious, such as those that cause cervical cancer. A national HPV vaccination program has been in place since 2010, and as part of this, all girls attending first year in secondary school are offered the vaccine free of charge. The Irish Cancer Society said that it had become, quote, concerned that misinformation about the vaccine is being circulated. The Irish Cancer Society is launching an advocacy campaign to support politicians so that they can have the full facts at hand when targeted by anti-vaccine campaigners and can offer an informed response to any queries from constituents. Quote, we cannot allow unsubstantiated claims to drown out the real facts on safety and inappropriately influence parents' decisions to have their children vaccinated, end quote, commented Donald Buggy of the ICS. The Society insisted that the combination of a HPV vaccination program, along with cervical screening, has the potential to, quote, all but eliminate cervical cancer, end quote. It noted that countries which started HPV vaccination programs some time ago have recorded dramatic falls in HPV infection rates, and this has led to a major reduction in the number of pre-cancerous conditions being diagnosed. Quote, the vaccine is safe and protects women from developing fatal cancers associated with HPV, end quote, said Buggy. And that story comes to us from the Sunday World newspaper in Ireland by Patrick O'Connell, and with my thanks to our friend Fiona O'Leary, who brought this to my attention.
Hej svenska skeptiker! Du vet väl att vetenskap och folkbildning inte bara är trogna anhängare av The Skeptic Zone utan också arrangerar föredrag, pop-science-quiz och skeptikerträffar runt om i Sverige. Gå in på www.vof.se för att spana in vad våra 7 olika lokalföreningar runt om i landet har på gång. Och om du bor i en stad där det inte finns någon lokalförening, varför inte starta en själv? Jag pratar med dig, Umeå. Hello all skeptics in Sweden. I'm sure you already know that the Swedish Skeptics Association not only is a big fan of the Skeptic Zone, but that we also organize lectures, pop science quiz and skeptics in the pub all over the country. Go to www.vof.se to see what our 7 local chapters are up to. And if you live in a place where there is no local chapter, why not start one yourself? I'm talking to you, Umeå.
And now, direct from the cafe at Australia's Science Channel, it's Brew Ha Ha with Kelly Wong.
We can't ignore it any longer. There's a disturbing trend in our news feeds: fake news. And the worst examples are, you guessed it, cute animal videos. Science says humans are humans and animals are not. That polar bear? It wasn't patting that dog, it was playing with its prey, and the poor pooch knew it. It wasn't thinking, yes, this polar bear is my new BFF, let's take a selfie. It wasn't thinking at all, it's a dog. When cats are nuzzling up to their owners, it's not because they're feeling affectionate. They're marking their territory with scent glands. You don't own that cat, it owns you. And any seemingly happy-go-lucky slow-lowers? They hate being tickled. They don't raise their arms because they love the gentle tap of human fingertips. They're trying to access venom glands on their elbows. Animals are amazing enough on their own. Polar bears have clear fur, cats can't taste sugar, and the bottom of a slow loris's tongue is serrated so we can use it like a toothbrush. If you're too busy trying to see what's human about an animal, you'll miss out on all the good stuff. We're all fans of the occasional smug selfie. But recently, people in India are sharing smog selfies to show the world just how bad their pollution is. As mobile phone ownership in India skyrockets, so do the number of potential amateur weather reporters. India's capital, New Delhi, is known as the world's most polluted city. But it's gotten so bad that the air pollution is literally blanketing the area, shutting down parts of the city and making it dangerous to go outside. This means no school, no construction, no work and no play. Not to mention the serious impact on people's health. Using social media and smog selfies can grab attention from all over the globe. Without these tech-savvy citizen reporters, who knows how much awareness we'd have of this massive pollution problem. Fact or fiction? A woman and her daughter both gave birth from the same womb. It's all fact, and a Swedish woman's 2-year-old son is living proof. What blew us away was that this woman received a transplanted womb from her own mother. That's mind-blowing. A mother and child born from the same womb. It's like birth inception. Let's take this back for a second. 5 women have given birth after receiving a uterus transplant, and one of those women is pregnant for a second time. Transplanting a uterus is an incredible achievement, which a lot of doctors believed was impossible, and even crazy to try. The Swedish doctor who cracked the case has now overseen a team in the US who performed 4 surgeries in September. Unfortunately, just one was successful, which shows how difficult this is. But for women who, until this procedure, were never going to be able to give birth, it's exciting news.
For more Brew Ha Ha and Australian science, head for www.australiascience.tv.
Üdv! Kraskó Gábor vagyok, a Skeptikus Társaság Egyesület és a Skeptikus Szervezetek Európai Tanácsának elnöke. Mint a Skeptic Zone podcast hallgatója, bizonyára te is fontosnak tartod az áltudományokkal kapcsolatos felvilágosítást, a kritikai gondolkodást és annak népszerűsítését. Ha szeretnél részt venni ilyen tevékenységben, vedd fel velünk a kapcsolatot a www.skeptikustarsaság.hu vagy az info@skeptikus.hu címen. Továbbá ajánlom figyelmetbe Facebook oldalunkat is, amit a facebook.com/skeptikustársaság címen találsz, valamint várunk szeretettel rendezvényeinken. Hi, this is Gábor Raskó, President of the Hungarian Skeptic Society and Chairman of the European Council of Skeptical Organizations. As a listener of the Skeptic Zone, you probably agree that educating others about pseudoscience and critical thinking is an important task. If you are eager to take part in either of these activities, we would be happy to hear from you. Don't hesitate to contact us at www.skeptikus.hu or info@skeptikus.hu. We also recommend you visiting our Facebook page, Skeptikus Társaság, or simply come and join us at one of our events.
Grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now, grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Okay, well, Tom and Cecil from the Cognitive Dissonance Podcast.
Wow.
Well, welcome to the Skeptic Zone.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so guys, we spoke yesterday. We covered quite a lot, but unfortunately the sound quality was, dubious. So we're trying to do it again. So one of the things we talked about is about bringing you over to Australia. Why do you want to come to Australia?
Well, I've always wanted to come to Australia. It's it's actually a hobby of mine, is to just be randomly attacked by your horrible animals.
Venomous.
It's
poisonous if you eat it.
I'm going to eat them.
It's venomous if they bite you.
Yes, so it's poisonous because I'm going to eat all of your animals.
What if they bite you on the side, right?
I just want to go there to eat all of your animals.
Yeah.
Like all those like...
How do kangaroo taste, by the way?
A bit kind of dry, but it's very strong flavor.
Yeah.
But, you know, we are, as far as I know, I mean, you know, many countries have a national animal.
Yeah.
As far as I know, Australia is the only one where we eat our animal.
What about koala? What do they taste like?
No, that's
you don't
not
eat
allowed to eat them.
Really?
Not allowed to eat koalas, because they're endangered. Maybe, there's different classifications, so I'm not sure whether it's endangered or just...
delicious?
Yeah, maybe delicious.
Is that one of the categories?
Yeah. Are they afraid of humans?
Well, they're asleep for most of the time.
That's right. They move real slow.
They move really slowly.
Yeah.
Well, they eat only gum tree or eucalypt leaves. It's not a huge amount of energy, which is, they sleep most of the time simply to digest the leaves. The thing is, they don't really have predators, so they're very...
Everything there is a predator. I don't even understand what you just said.
No.
Nothing eats, so...
Well, crocodiles are
So wait a minute.
right?
Hold on. When we get there,
do they climb
I will be
trees?
the apex predator.
Do crocodiles?
I'm going to eat your whole country.
Yeah, unfortunately, defensive wounds can still kill you. So if
I know all about defensive wounds.
If a funnel-web spider, oh my god, if a funnel-web spider decides to protect itself against you, you'll come out on the losing side. So
it won't be the first time. But what are you going to do?
Well, everything down there is poisonous, so I am kind of afraid of going down there, but I will tell you this, and this is genuine. Every single person I've ever met from Australia was the nicest person. It's like they're on a nice-off with Canada. It's amazing.
I apologize for...
I mean, you ruined this for us, but most other people, I'll say everyone else.
I'm not originally from Australia, so that's fine.
That's why. But no, they've been out. Everybody's just been so nice from down there. We've had such great conversations with people from down there, and they're very into the skeptic scene, and I think that's really cool.
And some of the first fans that we ever met in person at TAM were from Australia.
From Australia.
And they could not have been kinder, more gracious. They were awesome people. We hung out with them for the whole weekend. And they were great, so we may as well
Can I have the tissues, please?
You'll clean up later.
We'll take the handcuffs so you can clean up.
Yeah.
No, but it's been really great. And one of the things too is Tom and I have always wanted to go to Australia. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to see Sydney. We've always wanted to see the suburbs of New Zealand. So we're just anxious to go down there and do that. So yeah, it should be fun.
Okay, very good. Now, can you tell me a little bit about well, I know about your podcast, but some of our listeners, there may be one or two listeners who don't know about your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, our podcast is ridiculously
Should
I read from the program?
Yeah, you can read the program.
I'm going to read from the program again. This is what we did last time. It must have worked so well. We should repeat it. Nothing makes for better radio than listening to me flip through a page and try to find my own.
He doesn't even remember what day we were on, which is the best. He doesn't know.
I'm sure that we were in here at some point. Look, the days have blended together.
I know they have, because you haven't slept.
I have.
That's what, that happens.
I am intensely dehydrated no matter how much I drink, and I don't know. I'm trying.
Have you tried drinking something with actually water, some water in it?
Yeah, water is a key ingredient in all alcohols. Cognitive Dissonance is a foul-mouthed, skeptical podcast by a couple of goofballs who thought somebody might enjoy eavesdropping on their friendship. A news opinion show with obscene humor and very few filters. You may have already gathered that from the beginning of this interview. That is actually, whoever wrote that is just genius.
Yeah.
Did I write that? I think I wrote that. That sounds like me.
Yeah. So it's a show that preaches to the choir. We don't teach you anything new.
No.
We're not out there. We're not trying to educate the skeptical community, because the skeptical community is very smart, and there's a lot better podcasts for that. What we do is we talk about a lot of American politics and a lot of stories that come out of America that are egregious towards non-believers and towards skeptics, and we attack those things as if we're in a room full of people who all agree with us. And that's how we build our show. So everybody who listens, we expect that they're on our side and they're going to laugh along with us when Pat Robertson says something horrible about black people. So
which is every week. We
got plenty of
now,
material.
Okay, so I know that Tom is particularly sensitive to two words.
Don't you say it.
I have to say it.
I'll say one, you say the other.
Okay.
President?
Trump.
I'll kill the both of you at the same time. It's outrageous. I will throw saltwater crocodiles.
Okay, but just hear me out. Hear me out.
Octopus.
But hear me out. You're a comedy podcast.
It's true.
So,
but I look. Here's the thing:
you can't tell jokes in a nuclear winter.
Exactly,
it's impossible.
Yeah. When all the power is shut off and we're eating babies, the show is not going to be that big a priority. I'm going to have a hard time making it to the studio when the roads are melted.
It's a scary proposition to think that Donald Trump would win anything. It's looking very, very slim right now. But again, we're still several weeks out, and who knows? But we're actually, it would be great comedy for 4 years, but I would be embarrassed to be an American for those 4 years.
Yeah, I would be terrified of the actual ramifications for 4 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would be a horror show, a literal horror show.
But I actually think it could be a little bit better for you if you started learning Russian right now.
I know, right? I try not to learn things, though. That's like I'm trying not to change that about myself.
Jesus. Yeah. It's a horrifying proposition. We do talk a lot about politics. Because,
we do.
American politics are the most important ones. So,
well, it's because we rule the world.
Unfortunately, like you said it as a joke, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
You'd see how the entire world is completely obsessed with what's happening in America right now. Partially, it's because there's ramifications to everybody. America sneezes, everybody catches a cold,
so for sure.
And we will sneeze so hard if Trump wins. I mean, we'll sneeze
and we're
so
not going to
hard.
clean anyone off.
Right?
We're just going to be like, you're just going to have to take that. Actually, you pay me for that.
It'll be a good sneeze. It'll be a great sneeze.
It'll be the very best.
You won't believe how hard he'll sneeze.
So now you guys both have day jobs. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's true.
And that I think you've both mentioned at various times during the show that not everybody knows around about your views and your opinions. The fact that you're atheists and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work for you in terms of your families, friends, and colleagues? Probably importantly.
The people I work with know that I'm an atheist. I'm the only one that works with them. They're all religious, and they don't mind. They don't. It's not anything that changes our relationship. My in-laws know they're religious as well, but we don't talk about that. That is something that we leave off the table. My friends, I think pretty much all my friends, I don't really hide it from anybody, but I also don't talk about it. It's one of those things in America for real. It's not something that you just bring up all the time. If you're religious, you do. Because you're like, I'd like to pray before this meal or whatever it is. You always kind of trying to bring it up. But if you're an atheist, most of the time you never bring that up. It's very rare that I'll say anything about it. So, but the people that know, the people that are around me that are close to me know, and we don't. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
I think for my side, it would be a problem for me at work if it would be a problem for me at work if people. This show, it's really the political viewpoints that I would be nervous about having upper management find out about, because it's a very conservative company, and the people that run it are extremely wealthy, and they're trying to protect their wealth, and I think they want to see other people who have that protect my wealth, protect my fiefdom viewpoint. So it would be problematic for me if my bosses listened to the show. But the fact of my religiosity or lack thereof is a non-issue for me. Just across the board.
Sure.
My family knows. My friends, I think almost all of my friends are probably atheists too. I don't know. I don't think I have any that are like, yeah, I'll see you later Sunday. I'm going to church. I've never heard anybody say that to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so not too bad.
It's not terrible.
It's not bad at all.
Terrible.
We're in Chicago.
It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. And I think that if you were to like look at some of my earlier relationships, my father's passed away, but my dad was not happy that I was an atheist. There was a lot of guilt associated with that, where he would try to guilt me into sort of believing before he passed away, and he was, it was something that was very, very.
So he was a Catholic?
He was a Lutheran. And so he was very...
No, because the guilt thing.
Exactly, right. It sounds right. But I think it's just one of those things that he would say, you're breaking my heart, I can't believe you. And for him, his idea was that we'll never see each other again, right? He's going to die, he's going to go somewhere, and I'm not going to go to the same place as him. And it's not that I respect that idea, but I understand the love that comes with that. I understand that he means it with love. He didn't mean it with any kind of, he didn't mean it so that he would be controlling me. He meant it that he really loved me and he wanted me to sort of be, followed. But I couldn't lie to him. I couldn't look him in the face and say, yeah, Dad, I believe. Yeah, no problem, I believe. I just couldn't do it. And so it was a rift between us. But it wasn't such a rift that it can be for many other people, where they get kicked out of their home, they never talk to their family members again. This is all real stuff that happens all the time in America, constantly. People get kicked out of their homes, they get disowned. That's very common. So
we get those emails all the time.
Yeah, so.
I think we're at an advantage because we're in a major metropolitan area. So that gives us, and we're north, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah.
And so that's a major advantage for us, is that we're just in a different part of the country that is less, aggressive about that sort of thing in general.
Yeah. So, but you started the podcast around about 2007?
We started the podcast. We started our first podcast in 2007. It was called Everyone's a Critic, It's Terrible. And then we recorded it for several years. It was a movie review podcast that had this sort of atheist, skeptical news portion that was sort of tacked into it. It didn't really make a lot of sense,
but we loved it.
We loved to do it. And then one day we started talking, and we said, we should switch these up and just do 2 podcasts. And I convinced Tom, who was very busy at the time with a young child and a family, and he was like, I was like, we should really do 2 podcasts, and he said, yeah, let's try it. And so we tried it for 6 months. The movie review podcast stalled out because nobody was listening to it, and everybody loved Cognitive Dissonance. They loved this new atheist news podcast that was sort of part of Everyone's a Critic for a very long time, which nobody knew how to find it. Right. And that started in 2011. So we split them up in 2011. And in 2011, in April, that's when the show took off, and we've been doing it for 5 years, and it's been great. It's been great.
As a hobby goes, this is the best hobby I can imagine having.
It's been a lot of fun.
It's a ridiculous amount of fun.
Yeah, but especially for you, Tom, because you spend so much time working on the podcast.
So much work. I spend upwards of, how long do we record?
I hate you so much. Did I mention that earlier?
I know.
Yeah, no, Tom spends literally no time doing anything. And then I do all the work, and then Tom takes all the credit.
And half the money.
And Tom is always the funny and smart one, and I'm the guy who's the bitchy, whiny one. So that's how the division of labor works.
He says it A, because it's true.
Yeah.
And there's no B. Actually, there's no B.
Yeah.
There's no B.
You just that sentence out.
But all I want is the money and the credit and the fame.
Yeah.
And then I don't want you to have any.
Tell me when we get the fame.
Yeah. I'm waiting. No, I said want. What I want, not what I get or have. These are very distinct items.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 2011, and we've been doing it ever since. We haven't missed a week since August of 2011. So yeah.
Something I have to confess to you is that I'm used to listening to you at 1.5 speed.
Mm-hmm. We heard that. I've heard that a lot this weekend. Like, people just want to get it over.
The problem is there's such a wealth of good material, like podcasts.
Sure. I understand.
So, and there's podcasts that I just occasionally remove podcasts from my stream and just say just not enough time. There's certain podcasts that I don't miss. Yours is one of them. But in order to listen to all the podcasts that I want to listen to, I listen to them at 1.5 speed, and then I listen to the Skeptics Creed at regular speed occasionally, and it sounds very slow. Because but actually speaking to you like this, just normal discussion, and you sound a little bit.
Do we sound slow?
We sound slow.
I've been told I was slow my whole life.
Amazing.
So yeah,
I love it. I love it. I'm smarter in your head than I am here.
These guys are so quick-witted when I fast forward to the right. Yeah,
I know, it's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll try to get you to Australia sometime in 2017. You already have several listeners. We've figured it out that we have at least like 7 or 8 listeners.
We're hoping. Yeah, as long as those people have friends that we mentioned, yeah.
Okay.
Then we're good. Yeah.
I'm on.
So we'll try to get those 8 people to come.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that'll be tough because they have to get in their Mad Max cars and drive all the way across.
No, they can also ride in the pouches of your kangaroo.
The wasteland that
that's
Australia.
actually, Tom is right.
Yeah.
We actually go by kangaroo.
Tom is right. Okay. That's
a kangaroo highway
said that,
system.
so memorialize that, by the way.
It will not happen again.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you very much for being on.
Thanks for having us.
so much.
Thank you
This
so
is great.
much. This was a lot of fun.
Grain of salt now. A grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
G'day, this is Dr. Karl Kruszinski, proud to be a skeptic, and you can find out more about me at drkarl.com and get lots of free stuff there as well.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Coming up in the next few weeks, bound to have some interviews from the New Zealand Skeptics Conference. Looking forward to that. I almost finished packing during that episode. I wonder where those divining rods have got to. Also, some more interviews from QED, of course, with Eran Segev, talking to some more interesting people. And I think next week we have some more news about homeopathy. There's been lots of movement lately in regards to regulation in the United States about homeopathy. We should try to bring you that report. Thank you to those people who kindly chip in every week for the Skeptic Zone, and you can do that at skepticzone.tv via PayPal or Patreon. And it's due to your generosity and your patronage of the Skeptic Zone that I was able to buy a new microphone. In fact, I'm using it at the moment, giving it a try out. It's a tiny little sort of a Zoom microphone which you put into an iDevice. That means that when I'm on the road very shortly, in the air, flying to New Zealand and in New Zealand, I don't have to carry around the more bulky Zoom microphone. I can carry around this little thing that slips into my pocket. What is it? It's a IQ5. And in my field tests so far, it's performed pretty well. But I can't, obviously I can't get things like this unless I get the support of Skeptic Zone listeners. So thank you. Really, thank you very much. And what is also quite handy is with the technology improving as it does, I can do a lot of the editing for the Skeptic Zone right on my iPhone or my iPad these days. Not that I'm giving any special plug to Apple or even to the Zoom company, but they're the products I happen to use. But that's enough for me. So for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. See you in Queenstown. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.